This is a very great moment for the family. This is a project that started 6 years ago of producing a documentary of a sports family that has contributed 60 years to Kenya sports. And I am extremely fulfilled after this project. And now that my son is also on a good stepping on professional cricket, I wish him the very best and hope that he can take the legacy further and play the cricket at the highest level possible. Thank you.
I'm very happy that after so many years of hard work, this book, which was a dream for my husband Asif, it has actually come to a reality. Last month we had a launch in Nairobi, and today we're having it in England. And I pray, inshallah, for its success. And as for my son, he is now the flag bearer of the Karim Dynasty through cricket, inshallah. And I hope that my son Imran also continues with maybe tennis. And I wish my son all the best for taking the flag higher with maybe playing for England at the highest level, inshallah.
I think the launch event went very well. And I again want to thank everyone for turning out in big numbers. Hopefully I can continue the legacy. I'll try my best and then hopefully make my family proud. Yeah.
I think it's a tremendous achievement by Asif to do such a book and a video DVD, and those who haven't watched it, this is a humble plea that please watch it. And if you are reading the book, it'll take you 2 years, yeah? So please take your time reading the book, page by page. There are 800 photographs and a beautiful story. Nobody has written a story better than Asif. So please take your time. In your holidays, make special effort to read this book. It's worth reading it, and please, if you have a story to tell, please do so and document it.
I'm the daughter of Asif Karim, and I'm extremely proud of his and my granddad's achievements, and actually the whole family who came together today to put this together, to celebrate the hard work that's been put into developing the book and the documentary. And I know I've seen my mom and dad sit for hours on end in front of the computer going through this, and it's amazing to see kind of the success come together. The whole family here, the extended family, my husband, everyone here today is extremely happy, and I just wish all the success to all my siblings and my brother who's playing professional cricket to continue in the same vein, but with no pressure.
I will encourage our youth who are aspiring to become force to reckon with in the near future to come to Karim's family and learn from their experience and ask them how did they manage to do it. And I believe strongly, since they managed to do it, the youth can also be able to do it. And no doubt in the family we have a youth who is Irfan Karim and is also doing very well, representing his country. So therefore, this is the opportunity, and I invite all and sundry, especially our youth, to come and tap on this treasure and not to allow it to go in vain.
The elders Ghulam Ali Karim that I know, Hussain Karim, all were, and Sultan Karim, all were cricketers playing for our first 11 those years. As far as Yusuf Karim is concerned, he is a legend for the community because other than cricket, he was a very, very brilliant volleyball player. And in tennis, he was master of cement courts, where nobody was able to defeat him at the coast. He also played table tennis very well. So he was a gifted individual. He could play any sport.
is Mohit Chakpa, and I'll be your MC for this evening's program. I welcome you all to the UK launch of Karims, a sporting dynasty. 3 generations, 2 sports. Now I know amongst our crowd we've got some savvy internet, social media guys. So just to let you know, there's a Twitter feed which is @the_Karims. Instagram is #the_Karims. And Facebook is the Karims, the sporting dynasty. So if you think you've taken some nice pictures of this evening's program and some speakers, then please feel free to upload them onto those 3 channels if you can. The Karims also have a website called thekarims.co.uk.ke, my apologies. This is where there is a lot of additional information, photographs, videos, and newspaper articles of this launch which has already happened in Kenya. Okay. This evening's program is going to be, we're going to have some speakers to begin with, then we're going to have a short documentary of the dynasty, followed by a couple more speakers, then we'll finish off and we will have dinner after that. Okay. During dinner, I myself and the photographer will be coming around to people and then maybe taking a few sort of very short clips of what you thought and your feedback on this evening's program. Okay. Can I please first ask everybody to be upstanding for the Kenyan national anthem? So if I can ask everybody to be upstanding, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta 'alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi 'alayhim waladdallin.
In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. All praise be to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds, the most beneficent, the most merciful, the Master of the Day of Judgment. You alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help. Guide us to the straight path, the path of those who you have blessed, not of those who earned your anger, nor those who went astray.
As I'm sure you all know, Surah Fatiha is something we also recite to remember our loved ones who are sadly no longer with us. So I'd just like to request that you please recite the Surah Fatiha in memory of the marhumeens of everyone present here today.
Friends, guests, amongst us, there is a very special person. His name is Jawahir Shah. He's a former East African and Kenyan captain. And I think, Asif, you would agree that he was one of your mentors that you looked up to him. So we'd like to welcome you, Jawahir. Thank you very much for being in our presence. Thank you. It's taken Asif and his team some 5 to 6 years to put this documentary together. The documentary, the book, the project, the DVDs. The DVD itself is 2 hours long. So you can imagine how much effort and time has gone into putting this thing together. Having seen it, I got nothing but admiration. And I don't have words to describe how well it's been put together. And I would strongly recommend everybody to go onto YouTube and look at the documentary. If you have the time to sit for 2 hours, and I can assure you, 2 hours will just go like that. In addition, there was also the original book launch in Nairobi, where that was Asif's hometown, and that is where all this started from. Again, the whole book launch is on YouTube, and for those that like to know, it's called, if you put in the search engine, Karims book and documentary launch, and the whole book launch of the program in Nairobi will come up. So, where did the Karims start from? How did this dynasty start? Okay. It initially started when the Karims migrated from India to Kenya in 1926, when Asif's late grandfather, Mahmoud Ahmad Karim, was the first to move to Kenya. But that's not where the sporting dynasty started from. You know, you've got 3 generations. You know, Asif, his father, and I will talk about a couple of other people sort of involved as well. But the start of the dynasty was Asif's late father, Yusuf Karim. Okay? And I'd like to introduce somebody, a gentleman by the name of Zulfikar Fazl, who's going to be our first speaker. And Zulfikar was somebody who had played cricket, had coached cricket, had captained teams, had umpired, and he also had family ties to Yusuf Karim. And I'd like Zulfikar Fazl to come forward and give us a few thoughts on his personal experiences of what the times were back then in those early days. So Zulfikar, can you please welcome him with a loud clap?
In the name of Allah, the beneficent and merciful. Respected, distinguished guests, friends, and family members of late Yusuf Bhai Karim. Assalamu alaikum, good evening, and Jambo. Greetings to you all. It is indeed a great honor to have this opportunity to briefly express my personal memories on late Yusuf Bhai. It's not an easy task, but I'll try my level best. I'm an ardent follower of cricket. I watched Yusuf Bhai play when I was a lad. As a spectator in late 50s and 60s, late 50s and early 60s, I was mesmerized by his style, strokes, and impeccable power of concentration. In hindsight, I can say his eye-hand coordination was excellent. He was a stylish batsman and his strokes were powerful. He was never a slogger. He batted with grace. If he had the use of modern day cricket bats, I don't know what he would have done. It would be a havoc in those days. Moving forward, here are some of the many cherished moments. I can just put down a few. How powerfully he had hit the ball. One day I was fielding in the practice session. He hit the ball. I dived and stopped. But then my 2 fingers were in bandage for the next 3 days. On one occasion, he was 72 not out at lunch against a match versus the Goman Institute. This was the knockout round. And at lunch, in those days, everybody used to go home. So after the lunch, my friends and I would literally run to the club so that we did not miss any part of Yusuf Bhai's batting. We sat at our favorite place under the shade. I noticed one of my friends had no shoes, so I asked him why. He said in eagerness to reach the ground, he forgot to wear them. Once there's a team came from MCC under FR Brown. In the match against the CCA, Yusuf Bhai scored 33 in the second innings. Now let me put this in context. In those days, 130 to 150 was a winning score. So Coast 11 in the second innings that scored 138, of which Yusuf Bai was the highest scorer at 33. By today's standard, it may look a small innings, but it was a great innings in those days. Now, they had a very good fast bowler by the name of J.A. Bailey. Yusuf Bai hit him for 2 glorious cover drives. The bowler literally stood up, clapped, and applauded Yusuf Bai. Later on, I understand Yusuf Bai was offered to play county cricket in England. That was a great thing in those days, to play county cricket in England. Due to personal circumstances, he declined the offer. Once he was playing for CCA against KCA, and he was facing Kenya's one of the greatest spinners of Kenya, Blaise Dikuna. He played so well against Dikuna that after the game, Dikuna said that Yusuf was one of the best players he has ever bowled to. And that compliment coming from a great spinner. You have to be in those days to see how great Dikuna was in Kenya cricket context. In the local environment of Mombasa, there was a final of the Pandya Shield in 1960. Gymkhana had a mystery spinner called Ranchod. Ranchod had played Ranji Trophy in India, and he came to Mombasa and played for coach Gymkhana. So everybody was saying that Gymkhana is going to reveal a mystery spinner. This Ranchod, he was left arm and he bowled Chinaman, and he used to turn the ball from the edge of the matting to the leg stump. Yusuf Bai hit him so well and scored a classic 89 in that match. I can go on and on till the cows come home, but let's leave some for the future. Besides cricket, Yusuf Bai was a king of tennis in Mombasa. I repeat, he was a king of tennis in Mombasa and the Coast Province. A champion for 25 unbeaten years, 1951 to 77. And fantastic achievement. He also represented Kenya at tennis. He was equally a very good volleyball player. Many of you may not know this, but he was a very good volleyball player, the traditional style. He played at the center and had a good control of the game. A truly multi-talented sportsman. Having watched cricket for the last 50 to 60 years, from test level to club level, I feel, had Yusuf Bai been born in a test-playing nation, he would have played test cricket and perhaps would have been at tennis professionally. He was born in 1935 and left this world in 2009. He was soft-spoken, very friendly and humble, always ready to give advice. A person with very pleasant manners. His legacy continues. That's the interesting part, and the good part is his legacy continues. His son Asif took over the mantles of cricket and tennis. And the baton is now in the hands of Asif's son, Irfan. Irfan plays for Kenya and first-class cricket in England. I congratulate Asif and his family for capturing the achievements of his father. He has done it on screen and in a book, which is being launched today. Asif, yours is a noble deed. Any father would be proud of. I can vouch Asif worked tirelessly for the last 6 years to achieve the goal. Well done, Asif. Kenya has a great cricketing history. I wish those days come back when Kenya can re-enter the cricket scenario. And I wish also someone take it up in the cricketing fraternity in Kenya to write history of Kenya's cricket. Now if Afghanistan, which is a very not very happy political environment and turmoil, if they can rise up to the international level without cricketing history, I'm sure Kenya can do it. To you all, I say keep well and thank you.
Thank you, Zulfikar, for those noble words. And I'm sure there will nothing nobody better to be able to give this little bit of history about the late Yusuf Karim. So Yusuf was a foundation, okay? He's laid the foundation of this dynasty in sports. But before we sort of talk about the next generation of Asif and how he progressed in sports, my next speaker I'd like to call, who's going to give you a little bit about Asif's younger days and his schooling days, and whether was he mischievous in school, or was he attentive, or what was it? So if I can please ask Mustafa bin Jafar to come forward and say a few words on that topic for us, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. My elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is indeed an honor to be invited by Asif today to speak a few words. And I see so many of my classmates here who will vouch for every word I say. Because I promised Asif I will speak only the truth and nothing but the truth. And so you may be ready to hear what Asif is all about. On a serious note, I think as I see many faces here who are sportsmen, established sportsmen, veteran sportsmen, and very few like me who enjoy watching sports but not necessarily good at playing sports. And I speak from a perspective that I have noticed, especially Asif and his late father, Maulana Yusufai, is that not only were they excellent at what they were playing, but they had the spirit of helping others to learn the game and translate it. So Maulana Yusufai, for example, set up a sports show, Karims sports show. I remember those days because I was doing right above it. But every time I wanted the guts tighten in the tennis racket, or what kind of tennis racket to buy, I would go down to Marhum Yusufai and say, so tennis what do I do? And he would show me a racket, he would show me how to use it, he would show me how. I remember my days in school when Asif was, by then, when we were still in primary school, in Jaffa Primary School, as you know. In those days, Asif was already an established cricketer in our school team. But when we had coaches coming in from abroad to help us understand the game of cricket, Asif would make sure that all his classmates were given equal opportunity to try and learn the game from these coaches. He was there to help us learn the game, to help us master the game, and although we never made it anywhere near where he is today, but that spirit of trying to help others to learn the game is a perspective I thought I would add tonight to the Karims' contribution to these two great sports. Asif, my wishes, best wishes to you, your son, and inshallah, his son will carry on the footsteps of the great dynasty, inshallah. Thank you very much for listening to me. Wassalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Mustafa bin Jafar. I did say 3 minutes and it was bang on time on 3 minutes. I think you had to stop watching this. I'm just going to read a message out here from somebody who was also another one of Asif's friends. His brother was also one of Asif's classmates. And I'll read this out to you. It says, Salam Asif, and thank you very much for inviting me to this great event. Unfortunately, we cannot attend, but our heartfelt congratulations on the launch of the book, The Karims. Your marhum father and the sons have been the pride of our community. God bless you all once again, and thank you for the invite. This is from a gentleman called Mujahid Sharif, which a lot of you will know. Sadly, he couldn't make today's event, but he sent us the message. So I would sort of like to say thank you very much to Mujahid for that. Okay, we've heard a little bit about Asif's early childhood and how he then progressed. But his first passion was not cricket, from what I've been told. You might correct me on that. But Asif was one of 3 brothers, all sports. His elder brother, who I knew very well, Arif, was a formidable player in cricket, tennis and volleyball. And he lived in England, and I played quite a lot of cricket and volleyball with him. But Asif's passion started at a very, very young age, as Mustafa said, even during his schooling days. He won his first tennis tournament at the age of 12 and represented Kenya in Davis Cup. Now, who am I to talk about Davis Cup? But our next speaker is a former Davis Cup player for Kenya. He has represented Kenya more times than any other Kenyan player in Davis Cup. He has played on the ATP tour. He is from Mombasa, to the hometown, born and bred. Can I please ask you for a loud applause for our next speaker, Mr. Alan Cooper.
Thank you very much, Mia, for those wonderful words. First and foremost, it's an absolute honor and a privilege for me to be here in front of so many great people. You might not have seen me before, you may have heard of me, but I've certainly seen and heard of many of you here, and it's a fantastic honor. Thank you very much. The first thing is this book launch. I remember when Asif came to me a few years ago. In fact, it was 6 years. It's been quite a while. I was based in Kenya before moving to the UK recently. And Asif, in his humble ways, as mentioned before, would approach me and say he's working on a project. And I thought this was very meaningful because it's important for every family, every person who's ever achieved anything to document that as a legacy and for something to hand down to the future generations. Let me start off by saying I am very deeply happy to see you here, first and for you having done a book launch in Kenya, but also revealing it here in the UK. It brings a lot of satisfaction to me, especially being that I'm from Mombasa and the Karim family has a very strong name and a placehold in Kenya and in Mombasa in particular. My story is, I'll start off with Asif because his father was an incredible man. I don't need to elaborate on what was said earlier with those kind words. I do remember, however, going into Karim's sports house when I was just a child and ogling at all of the tennis rackets and all these wonderful shoes, and my dad would be like, no, not yet, not yet. And he loved having conversations with the late Yusuf, and I can see where Asif and Irfan get their charm and their wit from. So that was a good thing for me to be welcomed into the life of tennis. Asif, I don't know if you remember, there was a moment in Mombasa Sports Club. I used to idolize Asif. He was a man of great achievement and great accolade, but a very humble man. I remember, if anyone has been to Mombasa Sports Club, and remember sitting in the clubhouse and looking out onto the cricket pitch and looking at tennis players walk by with their bags. I was one of those, and I used to think, I used to follow them and watch them prepare and play, and I still dream about it at night actually. And I used to always bother my father and my mother, and I wanted to get on court with Asif. And I was just a young boy, and he used to train very hard. And one story in particular, I remember, you were preparing for, I believe it was either an All Africa Games or a Davis Cup. And he was in his sporting whites, impeccably dressed. Asif was always impeccably dressed. He was very well presented. And I used to admire him to such an extent where eventually, somehow, my mother convinced him to get on court with me and to play for an hour. It was supposed to be for half an hour, but Asif lent me an hour of his time and of his life, and that was a very important hour, because it was the first time in my life. I was about 10 years old, 11 years old, and I'd never played on a court with a person of this level. And because he was left-handed, he used to do things with the tennis ball that I did not understand. And hearing about the intellect and the hand-eye coordination that your father had, well, you certainly have it. And you had it in spades, and I'm sure you handed it down to Irfan, because your ability to manipulate a tennis ball, still, in my head, is something that I dream about, because as a left-hander, spinning the ball in a way that I did not understand at the age of 11 was a baptism of fire for me, and a realization that you can do different things with the tennis ball. So instantly, a great teacher on the court, but off the court, a very softly spoken person who has strong values. And I must reiterate how important that was for all of us in Mombasa, being that we were a small community, very family driven, and I see that here in this room and with Asif in particular. And I hope that is reflected and received in this book and in these documentaries, as I'm sure it is. It's often the things that we leave out as sports people, those are the fabrics that make us. So I'm very proud of that as well, that you're able to reflect that in your book. Other than the wisdom that was handed down, I'd like to say that I'll be the first one to be buying the book and making sure that everyone around me understands the depth and the wealth of experience that you've created. And I hope to see Irfan much more in the news to come. Thank you very much for having me here. Yeah.
Thank you, Alan, for those kind words. So just imagine if you at the age of 10 started with Asif and you got to be playing the biggest number of Davis Cup games from Kenya, where would others have led to? What an inspiration. But Asif's also passion wasn't just tennis. His passion moved from tennis to cricket. He first played for Kenya in 1980. I wouldn't like to guess how old were you then and how many years ago that was. He then captained Kenya in 1999, and soon after he retired. However, he had a call in 2003 World Cup, before the World Cup, to come out of retirement. Now, Asif, I'd like to hazard a guess who made that call to you. Was it the president of Kenya? Or was it somebody else, similar to the president of Cameroon, who had called Roger Miller to come out of retirement to play football in the World Cup for Cameroon? Was it something to that story? I've never got to the bottom of it, but we'll keep trying. Okay. But at 39, Asif wasn't a spring chicken. Okay. Few grey hairs, a little bit bald, but what a fantastic World Cup he had there. Now, I'm not going to talk much about that World Cup, because our next speaker, I'd like to introduce to you, from what I hear and what I've seen on the documentary, and some of you might pick it up, was that in 1996, Asif was bowling for Kenya against India, and this gentleman took a catch of Sachin Tendulkar, who was then on 99. However, Sachin, being Sachin, did not walk. The umpires did not stick the finger up. So I would like our next speaker to elaborate a little bit more about that. But who is he? His name is Hitesh Modi. He's played 3 World Cups for Kenya. He captained for Kenya against Australia in the 2003 World Cup, because was it Steve Tikolo, who was the then captain, was injured. So Hitesh had the honor, and that was a game which is well remembered for Asif's performance with the ball. So if I can ask Hitesh to come forward and say a few words on this, please. Hitesh.
Thank you very much for those kind words. First of all, I'd like to say I got a call from Asif, and it's been an honor to be here and say a few words. And I still think you can bowl a few overs. Looking at you, still fit and young, I would say. Good evening, Asif, the host, sport ladies, gentlemen, and my fellow Kenyans. First of all, we must congratulate well-known Kenyan cricketing icon Mr. Asif Karim and his family for the unique achievements in both cricket and tennis. It is heartening to note that Asif Karim's late father, Mr. Yusuf Karim, dominated the post-Mombasa tennis scene for the 25 years in the past. Asif Karim is a former Kenya cricket captain, having played in the 3 ICC World Cup, 96, 99 as a captain, and 2003. Asif, as we know, also participated in the Davis Cup in tennis. It is also a great honor for Asif to be an arbitrator and accredited mediator. Asif was also appointed mediator by the Kenyan judiciary for family and commercial disputes, and also had the honors of being the chairman of his community and served very well within his capacity. Like me, Asif has played against all the test-playing countries and is a well-traveled sporting personality who makes friends very easily, as we can see from tonight's function. With my experience as a youngster whilst I was coming through the ranks, Asif was always an encouragement to all his fellow juniors, as he was always positive influence within the team, sharing his experience amongst all of us, and was never afraid to speak his mind. He was an open-minded person and very fair when it came to discussions. During the era of 1994 to 2003, when Kenya was at its peak in cricket, we were both very fortunate to have been part of the success, beating the mighty West Indies in 1996 and reaching the semi-finals of the ICC Cricket World Cup in 2003, beating Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and Zimbabwe, amongst other major wins during that time. We had some dynamic cricketers and we are very both proud of that achievement. Asif has been a role model to many cricketers, and not only has he had a successful cricketing career, but he's a very successful businessman too. I must put it on records here that during my acting captainship in 2003 ICC Cricket World Cup in South Africa, match against Australia, Asif Karim bowled his heart out to capture the man of the match, bowling figures of 8.2 overs, out of which 6 overs were maidens, and captured 3 top-class wickets for only 7 runs. Those 3 wickets included Ricky Ponting, Darren Lemon, and Brad Hall. His son, Irfan Karim, has also followed the footsteps of his father, and Irfan is now a regular batsman, wicketkeeper for the Kenya national cricket team. I'm very pleased to say that Irfan is doing very well, playing for the Durham County in the seconds and playing in the Leicestershire Premier League. He has been backed by both his parents, Asif and Nazneen, to become a professional cricketer, and wish him best of luck for his future. Who knows, he may well represent England. Asif is known to have called spade a spade, and both Asif and me have played together in many national and international cricket tournaments and enjoyed various touring countries with different cuisines, as we both love our food. Behind every successful man is a woman, and Mrs. Nazneen Karim has been a great inspiration to the Karim family and the achievements. We wish Asif Karim all the very best in future, and grateful thanks to him for hosting tonight's wonderful function and making great efforts in getting some of the Kenya's past and well-known cricketers tonight. Thank you very much. I hope you have a good evening.
Thank you, Hitesh, for those kind words. I still can't believe sort of the, 8.3 overs, 6 maidens, 3 for 7. I haven't heard of figures like that anywhere from any international player. So hats off to you, especially against Australia. Okay, we're now going to take a short break from the speeches. This is going to be a short documentary, and it's basically clips of the 2-hour-long DVD. So once we are ready, can we...
In March 2012, the port town of Mombasa in Kenya honoured the late Yusuf Karim by naming a road after him.
First time, you met this guy he's fit, pretty dark skinned, very good pair of legs, stocky legs, and he could run forever.
When he was just 17, Yusuf Karim won the men's singles title of the Mombasa Residents Tournament.
This is the first tennis racket that he purchased from Datu auction for 5 shillings, got it fixed.
The following year, Yusuf won a double crown and then a triple crown in the succeeding year.
A secondary student becoming a course champion, it was a big honor.
The history of tennis in those days is governed very much by the Europeans.
I remember him from about the mid-50s, and that also at what was then the Nursery Sports Club. He was one of the leading sportsmen there.
He was interested in driving that ball.
And whenever Yusuf would not score runs, his father would have a word to say to him.
The most that has been talked about is against the MCC, when Mike Watkins came in, 1957-58 around that time, and he played glorious cricket against them and was immediately offered county cricket.
Yusuf Bhai was born in a wrong country.
In spite of being married to a famous sportsman, Nurgis Karim never got a chance to watch from the stands when her husband played tennis.
Nah, not allowed. हमारा लगा ladies ना जायज हुआ, खबर है?
Yusuf played tennis at a time when Asian players encountered signs like this. Ironically, he had defeated the top European players of the day and was well respected.
He partnered Jane Davis, who was one of the top players in those days, and they were paired as mixed doubles partners. And in the men's doubles was Nalin Shareta, who was his very good old friend, and of course the singles. So they did very well in the mixed doubles, having finished as bronze medals.
In 1977, Yusuf Karim played his 25th final of the Mombasa Residents Tournament against his eldest son, Arif.
Just imagine, right, at 43 you are still able to carry what you were doing in your 16 and 23 and all that.
I remember my first tournament was in 1977, August. It was in Nairobi Club. I had never even seen a Maram court. I was just under 14 in the Kenya Open semi-finals. And Kush and myself met for the first time.
His biggest asset was his mind.
Asif won the Mombasa Residents Championship when he was just 16, matching his father's record at the same age.
Asif, his game was centered around his ability to manipulate the ball as a craft.
Just like his father, Asif was also beginning to excel at cricket. Asif was then selected for the Kenya cricket team.
I was so impressed with this boy. His flight, at such a young age.
Asif was selected, and I took the opportunity of phoning his father and telling him that Asif has been selected.
Asif played with the Kenya team in the 1986 ICC Associates Tournament, where Tom Tikolo became the first player of African origin to lead the national cricket team.
Oh, they've asked the question. Everyone's holding that up and they cannot believe it. Well, I'd like to see that replay.
Well, the Kenyans definitely thought they'd got Sachin Tendulkar here. Must have just come off the bat, but definitely the decision going in favor of the batsman.
He was out. He put in a edge at 99. Caught by Hitesh Modi's short leg, he was out.
And that's it. Inside edge onto the stumps. Cameron Coffey goes. That's the end. The Kenyans are elated.
Well, it's like, the national football team, the Harambee Stars, beating Brazil at a World Cup tournament.
Then it's spinning away. That's got to be out close. Oh yes, oh yes. Well bowled. Quicker delivery after having spun a couple. Fizzed in the quicker ball. Caught the skipper by surprise.
So on the 5th ball I said, let me try him the arm ball. And I come in and deceived him with an arm ball. And then the rest was history. You get a player that has been dominating cricket for a lot of years. And really, it was a pleasure to get Ricky Ponting.
Asif added further credentials by qualifying as an arbitrator and also continued to be a vocal advocate of the government's role in sports.
You look at the way the ministry is at the moment. You have a ministry of youth and culture and blah, blah, blah. And then at the end comes a small word called sports. How can a beautiful country like Kenya, that has produced world stars over the years from athletics to football to cricket to tennis, cannot have a ministry of sports on its own? There is something seriously wrong. And it's high time now, with the new dispensation hopefully coming in 2013, that the government then must ensure that we have a ministry of sports on its own with a huge budget.
Growing up, their sons and daughters all represented Brabourne in various sports. Irfan already had his sights set on the Kenyan team.
I remember as a kid I would play him on the garden where we were staying in Westlands, and then take him to the club and bowl to him and all that, and you could see that the guy had the neck.
And I always remember my games at Brabourne because we were so competitive and we enjoyed all of them.
I saw his son play, and I called Asif straight away. I said, Asif, you've given birth to a lion cub.
While still in school, Irfan was playing cricket for the Kenya team.
It was my debut against Andhra Pradesh when Kenya took them on in a 3-day game. But then as the day went on, I found myself staying at the crease, getting runs easily.
Any batsman who can pick the fielders, can pick quick wickets, and he hits the ball hard, I think is the future of this country.
These are the innings you remember, and it's a grand final. Oh, and he gets 4 runs to finish the game, and that's the end.
Kospeke is Irfan Karim. If Irfan Karim can come up and get the Man of the Man trophy, and to give it to him, it's Tom Tikolo, Chairman, MPCA.
Trying to look now not on an individual basis, but more on a Kenya team basis to try and work well with the team, and hopefully we can start winning more matches and hopefully qualify for the 2015 World Cup in Australia.
Yusuf Karim's achievements are immortalized by this road named after him in Mombasa. As the achievements of his family spread across the sporting world, who knows how they will be remembered in the years to come.
That was just a flavor of what the DVD is all about. So again, I would urge you all, get that 2 hours put aside or in clips, watch the whole documentary, and it is absolutely mind-blowing. You know, how the dynasty has started, how it is carried on, and how it is going to carry on in the future. We will talk about that a little bit later. As if once he finally hung up his boots from cricket, and I don't think he'll be getting any more phone calls in the near future. You never know, he might surprise us. Okay. But as you've heard from the previous speaker, Asif's career has moved in different fields. He's established businessman, he's a fellow arbitrator, he's accredited mediator of the Chartered Institute of Arbitration in the UK. He's been involved in community work, and our next speaker is somebody that was linked during Asif's community work when he was the president of the Khoja National Jamaat of Nairobi. He brought this gentleman in to Nairobi as a resident religious scholar for the Nairobi community from South Africa. The gentleman was originally born in Ghana and then introduced to the Khoja world. He's currently the resident minister of religion for the Birmingham Jamaat. Can I please ask Sheikh Noor to come and give us a few words of wisdom on this?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Good evening to you all. I begin in the name of Almighty God, who has given us this wonderful opportunity to celebrate the achievements of Karim's family. I truly wanted to be part of the same gathering in Nairobi, but due to some commitments, I couldn't make it. So I thank Almighty God and thank Hajj Asif and his beloved wife, Sister Nazneen, and the children for giving me this opportunity to stand before you and to say a word or two of what I know of Hajj Asif and the family, and what I and you have to take home from here. I think there are two lessons that all of us can learn from this great family. And I'm saying this from the bottom of my heart and from what I know from the family. I was also involved in compiling this book and editing some of the languages. I think number one is legacy. We are here tonight to celebrate the legacy of, first and foremost, of our grandfather, late Yusuf Karim. I think it is an excellent and wonderful achievement that every family will be proud of. So I want to take this opportunity to challenge myself and to challenge each and every one of us. That particular thing which you think you know it better in your life, and you are doing it and you've been doing it, what legacy are you leaving behind? Late Yusuf Karim, this is legacy, and we are celebrating this legacy. And I challenge especially our fathers who are sitting here and our mothers. Leave legacy before you depart from this world. As they mention, every person has two forms of existence. You have internal existence and you have external existence. Your internal existence is the life you have, say, 40 years, 50 years, 100 years. That might not contribute anything to your life or to any other person. Your external existence is what you are able to achieve out of the 50 years, of 20 years, or 100 years given to you by Allah or Almighty God. So our late father, he left this legacy in his family. And Hajj Asif Karim took it upon himself. And this is where we are today. He passed it on to Brother Irfan. Now the challenge is with you, Brother Irfan. I think late Yusuf Karim, he's done it. He has achieved it and he has delivered. We've heard from our seniors who were with him in Mombasa. And no doubt, I've known Hajj Asif Karim for quite some time now. He was the person who brought me or took me to Nairobi to serve as a resident imam or the minister of religion. There are few things I want to say it here about him, and that is what led us to what we have today and celebrating. Number one, he is focused. I've not seen a leader in all our communities, to tell you the truth, who is more focused than him. And I'm not saying it because he's here, I mean it. Number two, he is principled, a very principled personality. And of course, when a person is principled, then you expect discipline. He's very disciplined. He doesn't do things haphazardly. He does things in a very calculated way. And last but not least, he is determined. And that is what we have today out of that. So therefore, the youth who are here, I think we have a lot to learn from Hajj Asif Karim and his wife. We're not here just to celebrate and go. Let's learn from his experience. So legacy number one, the last one, is to strive to reach your full potential in life. God has given us the potential. All of us here, we have our potential. Sky should be our limit. And I can confidently say, out of my own personal conviction, that Hajj Asif Karim, he has realized his full potential. Youth who are here with us, learn from that experience. What is the highest level of sports? Is to play a World Cup. He played a World Cup, but not just playing the World Cup, he captained his country. What else do you want? There's nothing else. And not only in sports, he's a very successful businessman. So therefore, let's learn from his experience. I call each and every one of you, Muslims and non-Muslims alike. And I know we have elders here who have got a lot of experience in whatever they do. Leave something behind. Document it. You have to document it. Don't leave it going here and there in limbo. Document something, and we are proud of you, Hajj Asif. To tell you the truth from the bottom of my heart, we are proud of you, and we need more of you in our communities, especially in Kenya and here in UK. And of course, thank you to Nazneen, Auntie, for giving the backbone, for being the backbone. You are the backbone of Hajj Asif. He used to travel a lot. You take care of the children, and today here we are celebrating. So therefore, Hajj Asif, your legacy will live longer. And Irfan, as I said, we challenge you. You are coming strongly. Keep up the good work. Take it further so that your younger brother will also follow suit. And of course, those of you who have watched Alibay TV, you've watched the daughter of Hajj Asif, Fatima, who is an engineer, and she kept her job. This is what we want to see in our communities. Thank you so much. May God bless you and keep up the good work, Hajj Asif.
Inspirational speech. Sheikh, I think I need to come to some of your classes to learn a little bit more from you as well on public speaking. Absolutely fantastic. As he said, backbone of Asif is his wife Nazneen. Without her support, I don't think Asif would have traveled or been able to do a lot of that, while she was then looking after the children. And what a handsome young man we have here. I'll introduce to him, but before that, it's as if you are the linchpin of this generation. If we look at the connection of the three generations, we've got the father, we've got the son, and we've got the grandson here. Asif is a linchpin between the three. But he is now looking to pass that baton on that he took from his father onto his son, to take this forward. So, Irfan, as you've already seen, you've represented Kenya at the international level. You're currently playing for Durham County Second 11 and in the Premier League in Leicestershire. But just want to make a point before you come forward. Something our first speaker said as well. The late Yusuf Karim had the opportunity or had the offer to come and play county cricket in the UK. This is going back, what, in the 50s, if I'm not mistaken? 50s, 60s? 50s, 60s. Just imagine what his talent was at that time to be able to be offered to come and play county cricket. He never fulfilled his dream. But I'm sure one day, Irfan, that can be your goal, to be fulfilling that dream of your grandfather. Can I please ask you to give a loud handshake clap to Irfan Karim?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming to the book launch of the Karims Sporting Dynasty. I don't think I can match Sheikh Noor's speech, so I'll try my best. As you may be aware, my parents have put a lot of work into the projects. We've helped along the way, but you know, it's spent a lot of time and a lot of effort, and you can see the satisfaction on their faces. The main purpose of this book and documentary is to honor my grandparents who unfortunately can't be with us today. I don't want to take much of your time because most has been said. I'd just like to thank the people again who have come from far and wide. Without the support of you and many others, most of this wouldn't be possible. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Before I introduce our final speaker, the man himself, I have a message here that I'd like to read. And some of you are going to ask me who this gentleman is. He's a legend of East African cricket, but I won't give you his name until I've read his message. And he was a mentor to Asif and a very personal friend as well. Messages, I'll read this out to you. It says, Asif, I first met Asif Karims many years ago in the late 70s when Metro's cricket club from Zimbabwe were touring Kenya as guests of Serali Muslim Club. Serali and Jaffrey Sports Club have always enjoyed a friendly cricket relationship. And since I was looking after Metro team on the way to Mombasa, Jaffrey Club had requested me to play for them, hence my meeting Asif. The Metro's innings started after we had finished batting, and after the fall of the first wicket, a very good batsman by the name of Tarzan Patel walked into bat. Tarzan was powerfully built, was a fine batsman for Zambia, blessed with tremendous power, and was capable of demolishing medium and fast bowling. But unfortunately, facing spin was his Achilles heel. I had noticed this tiny crack in his batting armour after scouting him in previous matches. As Tarzan made his confident stride towards the crease, I asked the Jaffrey captain if we had a spinner playing for us. The reply was that he said, we have a young boy who plays for our second 11. I requested the captain to bring him on to bowl against Tarzan. Watching this youngster make his way to bowl, I sensed an inner confidence in him. A young man showing no outward signs of fear or apprehension. If he did have those feelings, he did a fantastic job of masking them. With the ball in his hand, I decided to wander over and just talk this young man through what I had seen and what I thought he should obviously do. I would like to state that I take no credit for his effort, I just simply wanted to offer some advice. After a brief discussion, I suggested he employ an attacking field. It was a ploy to surprise and upset Tarzan, and that he sticks to a certain line and length regardless of the result of what Tarzan did. When Asif started bowling, I couldn't help noticing that he bowled a beautiful controlled flight. It was a teasing length, and it was a kind of delivery that invited the batsman to try and have a go. But if you are unsuccessful, you would be on your way back to the pavilion. Right from the first over, Asif had Tarzan in all sorts of problems. He stuck to his bowling plan diligently and didn't give an inch. After the over, I remember walking over to the captain of Jaffrey and saying to him that if this young boy is your second 11 bowler, I'd love to see who your first in bowler is. To which he got no reply. Asif was very impressive, as I remember. He accounted for Tarzan's wicket twice in that match, and not to forget that he had other batsmen in all sorts of problems. After the game, I spoke to Asif and offered my congratulations on a fine performance and gave him my encouragement, though I doubt he needed it. As the years have passed, he developed into a very fine young cricketer and made a great name for himself in the World Cup for Kenya. Asif was one of the few people I have met that played another sport to a high level. He was a brilliant tennis player and a Kenyan champion. An amazing accomplishment. I'm sure you'll all agree. As the years passed, I used to meet Asif occasionally in Nairobi during our cricketing season and kept an eye on his progress until I left Kenya for the UK in 1989. He is blessed with wonderful personal qualities, some of which are he is always very softly spoken, always polite, courteous to his elders, and these qualities are a testament to the efforts not only of himself but his parents. Apart from his success in cricket and tennis, Asif has done very well for himself in the sports arena, away from the sports arena, being a very successful businessman alongside his wife, and they have been good parents to their children, giving them good education and a sure footing in life. These are the feats that are far greater than what is shown on any win or loss column in any kind of sports. Being a father and a grandfather, I appreciate these things. The last time I met Asif was a few years ago in London for lunch. As always, it was great to catch up with him and remembrance about the years gone by. Asif is launching his book, Karims, A Sporting Dynasty, in London. Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend as I'm out of the UK. Needless to say, I would have loved to have attended this launch and personally congratulate Asif on this huge occasion. The initiative he has shown in doing a documentary and a book project is commendable and needs to be applauded. Similarly, what his family has achieved in both cricket and tennis in Kenya needs to be recognized. It's a dream for many to represent their country at the highest level, no matter whatever the endeavor. It is not often that someone like Asif comes around and does it in two different sports, and is closely followed by his son, who has represented Kenya in cricket. The Karims, a sporting dynasty indeed. I offer my apologies once again for not being able to attend, but I would like to wish Asif and his family all the very best in the future. Best of luck and best wishes, Zulfikar Ali. Having a commendable career. Now, for this last part, for the last speaker, I haven't made any notes. Our final speaker is going to be the man himself, Asif. I sat down last night to try and think of words to introduce him. I couldn't find it. I think a lot has been said today about his gentleness, his politeness. But what I can say to you about Asif was that I grew up in the same era as he did. But at a very young age, I left Mombasa to be in the UK from 1972. So we grew up in totally the different parts of the world. But the one thing we always had was our friendship. Whenever I was in Kenya, even if it was for a day, a phone call would go. If Asif was free, we would catch up for coffee or dinner or lunch. Same thing, whenever Asif comes to the UK, I can be assured that in his busy schedule with everything else that's going on, I will at least get one phone call, we'll have a coffee together, and maybe a bite to eat. And we've carried this tradition on for a long, long time. Asif, I cannot give you any other introduction than that. Ladies, gentlemen, can we please welcome our final speaker, the guest, Asif Karim himself.
In the name of Allah, the most kind, the most merciful. Respected scholar, respected elders, my classmates who are here from the 70s, ladies, gentlemen, family and friends. Assalamu alaikum. We are running a little short of time, but I would like to talk about 3 points that I think needs to be considered by all of us. First, I would like to echo what Sheikh Noor said in respect to archiving, documenting, and keeping a legacy. I believe every person in this room has a story. And I think it's the responsibility of this generation, for the future generation, to know where we have come from, what has been achieved, and what needs to be done for them, so that they can live a better life than what we have done so far. This is what our forefathers have done. I think it's now our responsibility. Secondly, the words that I heard today, I must admit I am overwhelmed and emotionally taken aback. I thought that when I heard the same speeches similar in Nairobi, I thought it was quite touchy and overwhelming. But the speeches in England and at this launch has taken me really aback. So I wish to say something here that I think needs to be considered. Many a times we speak about people when they are already in the grave. We give their compliments when they are no longer around to hear it. Why do we need to do that? I am fortunate, blessed, and lucky that I managed to hear those kind words, though slightly exaggerated, but I am not complaining. So I am thinking and appealing to the leaders of the community and to the families that we must acknowledge the people who have done well in the society. We must acknowledge for the contribution that they have given to humanity. And let's not wait for them to die and then start what I call guilt feeling by creating good speeches just to the guilt that we have that we did not acknowledge when they were around. So, and finally, as we have now completed this mammoth project, but I can tell you it has fulfilled me to the core, completely to the bottom of my heart, and what I wanted to honor my parents. I always say that the ladies of the families are the unsung heroes, and my mother contributed tremendously to where Yusuf Karim reached and to where we have reached here today. And for those who know my mom, there are many seniors here who are from Mombasa, will definitely agree with the role that my mom played to the upliftment of the Yusuf Karim family. Finally, now that this project is over, the responsibility is not over for me. We have recently launched a foundation called Safina's Foundation in Kenya by my wife and myself, and we intend to promote sports because I strongly believe that sports unites people. It is one area that where it does not matter what skin, what color, what religion, what race you are. It brings people together, it gives a better understanding, and I again appeal to the leaders of all the communities, Muslims and non-Muslims, to advocate for promoting sports at every level. Sports now has also become a multi-billion-dollar industry, and you can see the money that is involved in sports right now. So it is important for the fathers here and the mothers to promote sports in their houses and try and promote and encourage their youngsters to see that sports can be taken at a much higher level. So as I said, we are hopefully trying to promote sports in Kenya. We are also looking forward to promoting education and social needs. Finally, I once again would like to thank everyone from the bottom of my heart. I know in England, and especially with the weather that we had today, it is quite a challenge. So I do appreciate all the love that has been given by your attendance here today. May God bless you. May God bless Kenya, and may God bless Kenya sports. Thank you very much.
The book is also being launched. It's at a cost of £50. And Asif will be here personally to autograph anybody that buys the book. And with that, they will also get a complimentary 2-hour DVD as well. We've had the launch in Kenya. We've had the launch in UK. Where do we go next? Do we go to the West Indies? Or should we go to Australia? Where shall we go? Shall we have a toss of a coin and see either one? I think the crowd would like us to look at it and say, let's take it to Australia and give it to those pummies there. Gentlemen, ladies, that concludes the program. Dinner is going to be served, and after that's been done, anybody else that'd like to come forward and have their photographs taken with Asif, with the book, get it autographed, please feel free to do so. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a safe journey after.
Religion says a lot about the sport. Sports occupies a very prominent position within religion. Therefore, you have our great scholars, our Maraji today, they encourage us to be in the sports. It's not only about our physical strength, but it brings people together, it unites people, it unifies us. And our youth today, if you look at the best thing they love the most is the sport. And that is why some of the scholars mention, if it is through the sport that you can take the youth to come to the mosque, so be it. Let them come through the sport, and that is the best thing to do.
Well, I played with Yusuf Karim since 1948-9 up to his retirement from the cricket. My opinion, he was the best. That's what I have seen. He was the best batsman. I've never seen anybody those days for the Jeffrey, match-winning man.
I think it's a great achievement. I think Asif's dad was a true king, as you mentioned in your speech, and Asif has taken after him for sure.
Today, when I see what Asif has achieved, I feel very proud. I think first and foremost, I think you've got to have a good structure, and I think Asif's structure has been laid down by his dad, and obviously he comes from a sporting family, and I think sports is something that should be within you, but at the same time you should have a little bit of infrastructure in the country from your childhood, from your school, you know, getting into the club level, and then obviously representing your country. I think it's a wonderful event, and I think Asif's done really well with his family and all of you put together. I think it's a great show, and I look forward to looking at all the interviews and the programs.
I've known them since I was schooling in Mombasa. They've always been right at the forefront of all sporting activities, be it tennis, be it cricket, and I think they've made them for themselves, which I'm very proud of, belonging to the same community.
Well, I haven't actually seen the documentary, but I've heard about it, and I know that they are a very eminent sporting family. It runs like through their blood, and I'm associated with Mohsin and with Asif, and the whole family, from the grown-ups to the younger ones, have all been in the sporting field. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing this documentary today.
Yes, I was his best man, and we have played cricket together in Mombasa, both with Asif and Arif. And I have known the late father, Yusuf Karim, very well. He was a very close family friend, and the family has done a lot sport-wise and also for the community.
I think it's a milestone not only for the Karim family or Khoja community,
generally for any sportsman. It will be very, very few sports people who would have the privilege or the opportunity to do this. So hats off to Asif to have organized this and having had worked so hard to achieve this. It's a lovely, lovely tribute not only to the family, the community, but to the sports itself.